Hello there! Wow! Perfect! Wonderful! Well done!
Okay!
What's up, everybody? The Nintendo Beast here, jumping back into some F-Zero 99 here on the Nintendo Switch, and for good reason. Today we're talking about games, Nintendo intellectual properties that are dead? Question mark? Question mark? Question mark? And I think playing a game like F-Zero 99 is probably a good idea. When discussing, I feel like it's fitting when discussing games or franchises or properties that are considered dead in the Nintendo-verse. So let's just jump into some regular gameplay here in F-Zero 99. And so F-Zero is a Nintendo franchise that comes to mind when considering franchises that could be maybe dead. Obviously, we have F-Zero 99, which is a relatively new game, but it's also just kind of a 99 Battle Royale edition of a pre-existing game. So it's not really a new game. It's not even really a remaster necessarily. It's just kind of a... I don't know what to call this. A reimagining? I guess it's kind of like a... I would almost call it a remix of a pre-existing game. But with that said, the question, let's start with F-Zero, shall we? I feel like that makes sense. Let's start with F-Zero. First of all, we have not seen an F-Zero game, a main F-Zero game outside of, obviously we have F-Zero 99 here. But we have not seen a true blue F-Zero game since I believe the Nintendo GameCube. I believe the last game in the main franchise was F-Zero GX on the Nintendo GameCube, if I'm recalling correctly. So that's been multiple console generations now. That's a long time since we've seen a real F-Zero game, and now all of a sudden they release F-Zero 99, which I think for F-Zero fans, that might be a good sign, maybe? But we also have Mario Kart. Now, mind you, Mario Kart did already exist when F-Zero GX came out, so I'm not trying to say that because Mario Kart exists, an F-Zero game never will again. You know what I mean? Oops. I thought there we go. Jeez. Okay, good. I wasn't totally sure if I could still get regenerated up here. But yeah, so not to say that an F-Zero game can't or won't exist ever again because Mario Kart exists, but I mean, Mario Kart is huge. And I don't think... I mean, Mario Kart has always been pretty big, right? Mario Kart 64 was big, Double Dash was big, but I don't know if it was quite as big as it is now, with Mario Kart 8 now and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe here on the Switch. I don't know if the Mario Kart universe or the Mario Kart franchise was as big. I don't want to call it a universe. But if it was as big as it is now back when GX came out on the GameCube. But, yeah, it's... I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever see an F-Zero game again. But because F-Zero 99 now exists, it does lead me to believe that it's a little bit more likely that we might. This might be kind of a teaser, so to speak, Nintendo's putting out to see how people like, or see how people react to this reintroduction of this franchise that has been long dormant and possibly extinct. So yeah, I'm not sure. I personally would obviously love to see a new F-Zero game arriving on Switch, and I mean, yeah, I would love to see another F-Zero game, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's a place for F-Zero in the current climate. With so I would say this. I think if we were expecting a Mario Kart 9 on the immediate horizon, I would say that an F-Zero game is unlikely. But because we didn't see in Mario Kart 9, and because we instead saw Mario Kart 8 Deluxe being ported to the Switch in the form of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and then again years later, instead of rolling out Mario Kart 9, they rolled out the Booster Course Pass, which again I didn't have a problem with. I loved the Booster Course Pass. I think it was a really, really smart move on Nintendo's part. But with that said, because we don't see a Mario Kart 9 necessarily on the horizon, this might be a good time to roll out an F-Zero game, because you have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and it is now in its final form, but it's also been out for like, what, I want to say like 10 years. That can't be real. I don't know how many years, but it's been out for a long time, is my point. And now it's finally in its final form, kind of as of recent. So I think we're in a time window where we're not likely to see any more Mario Kart for at least the foreseeable future. Which means in my mind, this would be, if there's ever been a perfect time for an F-Zero game, especially with the build-up established by F-Zero 99, I think this is the time that we would see a new entry in the F-Zero franchise. That's just my opinion. We'll see. Leave me a comment in the comment section below if you agree or if you disagree with this being kind of potentially the most likely time we would see, or maybe even, I would say, the best time for Nintendo to roll out a new F-Zero game, especially if we're getting a new Switch hardware, like some kind of new console this year, which I think we're supposed to be. Rumor has it. I don't know if it's not confirmed by Nintendo yet, I don't think, but, you know, when Nintendo rolls it out and says, here's the new console, that's when I'm like, okay, that is a fact, you know what I mean? That exists, concrete, and the release date is what Nintendo says it is. Until then, it's all just speculation in my head. But especially if a new F-Zero game was a launch title, like this game is too big for the current existing Nintendo Switch, so we're rolling it out on the Switch Pro, or the Switch 2, or whatever it ends up being, you know, the Switch U. Hope they learn their lesson, they don't do that, but you see what I'm saying. Oh, there we go. I keep thinking that my gauge is filled up, but it's not quite. Yeah, and in the same note, so I think that's all you can really say about F-Zero. Oh man, I should have hit the pit stop over there. Crap, this is gonna be a dangerous lap. I'm not gonna make it through this lap, I don't think. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. Okay. But in a similar vein, on a similar note, to games that are too big for the current Nintendo Switch and have to be held on to until the Nintendo Switch successor comes out with better hardware. Let's talk Metroid. Now Metroid's a different kind of situation because obviously we did get Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread, however, was a game that was being held on to since the Nintendo 3DS. That was a game that was supposed to release on the Nintendo 3DS, didn't, obviously, and then became a Nintendo Switch title, and a beloved Nintendo Switch title at that. And then following that, or not following that, but in addition to that, I should say, there's Metroid Prime 4 that is technically, in theory, on the horizon. I mean, if I had to guess, realistically, I would almost be willing to guess that this game is already complete. Nintendo, this would not surprise me one bit if Metroid Prime 4 has been complete for some time, and Nintendo has some kind of launch plan for it, and that time just hasn't come yet. You know what I mean? I don't think it's been done for years necessarily, but I think like probably relatively recently, it's probably. I'm not gonna say it's probably done, but I would go as far as to say that it wouldn't surprise me if it was. And then we get some kind of announcement for it. And quite frankly, I think it would make perfect sense that it might even be a launch title for the new Nintendo console as well. So that's something that I would say. That's something that I would say. is a possibility, I should say. I got a bunch of stuff. Coolsies. Yeah, so as far as Metroid goes, continuing the conversation about Metroid, we also got Metroid Prime Remaster last year, which begs the question of when is Metroid Prime 2 and then eventually Metroid Prime 3 gonna get the remaster treatment. And I'm assuming, I think it's safe to assume, that Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters are probably going to launch before Metroid Prime 4. I think that's a safe bet. And I thought, I forget when Metroid Prime 1 remaster launched. I think it was this past summer, right? I want to say it was this past summer, maybe fall, but I think it was summer 2023, late summer 2023. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I know you will. But I kind of assumed that we would have seen Metroid Prime 2 remaster by now, and we'd be looking towards the launch of Metroid Prime Prime 3 remaster, followed closely behind by Metroid Prime 4 launching. But the window of time that has passed between now and the launch of Prime Remaster 1 is confusing to me a little bit, honestly. Excuse me. I thought this would have been a quicker timeline, especially since there are 3 games. So it kind of does. I was assuming that Metroid Prime 4 was closer on the horizon than it now seems to be. I guess that's the message that I'm trying to get across by mentioning the delayed launch, in my mind, of Metroid Prime 2 remaster. And I think Prime 2 remaster has already been all but confirmed, mind you. So it's not a matter of like, oh, is it gonna happen? I'm pretty sure it was already confirmed. It just wasn't like a release date wasn't announced for it. And if you get 1 and 2 remastered, I mean, it would be kind of ridiculous to assume that 3 isn't also on the agenda. Which means, like, if there are, depending on the amount of time between Prime Remaster 1 and Prime Remaster 2, I would say that's probably going to be relatively comparable to the distance between release dates for 2 and 3. And then who knows after that? You know what I mean? Like, after Prime 3 remaster releases, who knows what the difference is between that and the launch of Prime 4. But, yeah, so the Metroid series, I would not go as far as to say it was dead. I mean, it was kind of dead for a long time, right? Or for a decent amount of time. And then, obviously, Dread released. Prime 4 has always been on the horizon to some extent, obviously. It's been for quite some time. But, yeah, I don't... Metroid's a little bit of a different situation, is my point. So we'll see. I do think they're going to continue rolling out the Prime remasters as a way to rebuild hype. I think Dread set this in motion, and then the Prime remasters are going to continue to build up the hype, and then eventually we're going to see the reemergence of the Metroid Prime 4. And that's when we're gonna, I don't know. That's when we're gonna say the Metroid franchise is officially back. When we've got the new 2D, which is in Dread, and then we finally get Metroid Prime 4. I think that's when we can officially say the Metroid franchise is back and Nintendo's showing it some love. So that's that. So that's kind of like the F-Zero end of the thing, or... That's discussing F-Zero, and that's discussing Metroid. But there are a bunch of other franchises that Nintendo has long forgotten about, too. So let's discuss some of those.